I'm based in the Woodlands, Texas, but today I am in New York.
Oh, got it. All right.
I,
Cool. I think we'll just give it like 2, 3 minutes, everyone. So thanks a lot for joining in on time. Really appreciate it. Just giving it a couple more minutes for more folks to join in, and then we'll get started. In the meanwhile, it would be great if you could maybe drop a message, just indicating where you're joining us from, and when you registered for the session, if you had any questions that you have in mind, we have a packed agenda with a lot of insights on how Upflow and at Upflow has set up G2 and website intent for driving pipeline. But if you had any questions when you registered for the session, please feel free to drop them in the comments so that we can actually address them as well. So excited to have all of you here. We'll just give it like 2 to 3 more minutes, and then get started. So yeah, I'm right now in Bangalore in India. Yeah. Uh, okay. I think we have. Hey, Ajit. And again, if you have any questions, get when you registered for the session, anything that you were thinking about, please do feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. We'll make sure to kind of address them as we go on. I guess we can get started now. So, hey everyone, excited to get this started. I'll just start with a quick round of introduction. My name is Praveen. I'm one of the founders of Factors.ai. I take care of product and marketing at Factors. So, I'm building a product which is useful for marketers and actively using it at Factors as well. So I have a good vantage point. I'm really excited to have Ashima and Christine join us today, and I'll just hand it over to them for a quick round of introductions.
Do you want me to
Go
go
ahead,
first?
Ashima. Yeah, go ahead, Ashima.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashima. I lead the demand generation function at Upflow. I'll give you a quick introduction of what Upflow does so that all my anecdotes and example later down the road do not confuse you too much. So Upflow is a solution that helps businesses get paid faster while keeping customer relationships strong. So marketing, sales, success, all the business teams work very hard to build trust, convert prospects into advocates, and drive those long-term relationships. The last thing anyone wants is for those efforts to be undone by aggressive finance collection emails causing friction or worse churn. At the same time, we can't even afford to get paid, not get paid and risk cash flow issues. So Upflow bridges that gap, ensuring smooth and efficient payments without damaging those valuable relationships. And Praveen, thank you for having me here. Very excited to be talking about G2 and factors and indent data, how we leveraged all of this at Upflow in the last 2.5 years now.
Yeah. Christine, over to you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Christine Lee, and I am the VP of Global Partnerships and Data at G2. What myself and my team aim to do is we aim to maximize the ROI and leverage you get out of G2 through a robust ecosystem of partners and data solutions partners. We're constantly looking at how do we do more with our data so that you can realize the results on your end. And part of that is partnering platforms like Factors AI to really track and show where every touch point of your buyer journey looks like. We're going to go more into that later, but that's a little quick tidbit about me.
Great. So without much delay, so Ashima, I just wanted to get started with what you just mentioned, right? So we've been working together for over 2.5 years. So you were one of our first customers once we launched our account intelligence and activation solution. And I know that you've been working with G2 for a bit longer than that as well. So if we had to kind of rewind, like maybe 3 years back, could you talk to us a little bit about what was Upflow's stage of growth at that time? What were the go-to-market motions that were working? And why did you kind of decide to set up like a completely new channel, which is this intent-based marketing and sales program? What was the internal trigger? What was happening inside the company at that time?
All right. road down the memory lane. So 3 years back, or at the very beginning of Upflow, we were heavily outbound driven. We've always been a very lean team, very focused on efficiency. And back then, all our sales was coming from cold outreach, outbound motions, because of course, new brand, nobody knows you in the market. So it's heavily outbound focused. But parallelly, what we started to do is we started to build our inbound channels, but they of course take time. A few months down the road, or maybe a year down the road, we had successfully built a good website with high traffic coming in. We already had G2 in place back then. So it was quite clear that we need to scale our inbound channels. So back then, I mean, 1 year after the fact, we already had 50% of contribution coming from inbound, from 0% to just a year ago. What was next? It was scaling this channel even further. So we decided to first go ahead and activate G2 intent signals because we already had the listing there. Once we did that, over the next 6 months, what we did is we tried different strategies, aligned with sales, set the right expectations, created multiple campaigns that failed. Also, of course, many of them failed in the beginning. But one thing was very consistent from the very beginning is our GTM motion, very, very focused on high quality content and value-driven approach. So we started looking for other distribution channels soon after we saw some success coming from G2. So a few opportunities created, a few closed. We started seeing other channels that could give us a similar intent data that we could leverage in a similar fashion. And what was the better way to capture intent than our own website? And that's when we encountered Factors, chose them as our preferred partners to de-anonymize traffic on our website. And I think rest is history. But one important thing that we realized in that 1.5 year journey was that buyer intent goes, or its potential goes way beyond just acquiring customers. It can also give you a direction to your strategy, to your business. It could give you an idea of what the market pull is like, what ICP are you targeting or in target, when is the right time to go up market, all of those type of things. So yeah, I think it was the right time and the right thing for us to do back then, using G2 as the first test point, creating a strategy tailor-made for our business model and our product, and then of course leveraging Factors to do the same with our website.
Got it. So you started with leveraging G2 intent signals because you already had a good presence on G2, and then you added first party website intent subsequently to that mix, right?
Yes.
Cool. Christine, I'm sure the audience probably doesn't need like a big introduction of G2. G2 is like everywhere, but even then, could you, to ensure that we set the context straight, could you talk a little bit about G2 and the buyer intent offering specifically?
Yeah, happy to. So G2 at our core, we are the largest B2B software marketplace. We are where you go to buy or to do research on software. And we aim to connect vendors with buyers who are actually in market. You may have heard the stat many times from Google to everyone else. 95% of people you're targeting are not actually in market yet. Well, we have the 5%. People don't go to G2 for fun, sorry. They go to G2 with a very specific purpose. They're looking to solve a problem, specifically a IT problem. And then they have an idea of the type of solution that they're looking for, and they're doing research to validate their hunches, to create their shortlist, and to compare to whittle down to exactly what they need to purchase. All of that traffic, and we have 100 million buyers come to our site every year, over 2.8 million reviews collected. All of those traffic turns into intent signals. We package that up, and we work with customers like Upflow in helping them map out the buyer journey, whether they are in high category research or if they're lower funnel, and actually comparing your companies side by side.
Got it. Understood. And if I'm not mistaken, Christine, for many of the categories for search terms, I believe G2 is like the number one sort of search result in many cases, right? And that also, so you have a huge organic sort of growth in traffic that comes in every year. Uh, Cool. And everyone, in terms of about Factors, so Factors is a so we integrate with G2. So we've been partnered with G2 for over 2 years now, and we launched our partnership officially last quarter. About Factors, we are a account analytics and demand generation platform. What we help you do is essentially bring together all your account level signals. It could be website intent, it could be G2 intent, it could be data from your CRM as well. We help you bring all of that together into a single platform and map that out in a single timeline, so that you can then act on those signals in terms of either doing reporting or activating it for marketing campaigns or sales activities, all of which we will go into a lot more detail as we progress. Factors currently works with over 330 customers globally, predominantly in the SaaS and business services or IT services sort of segments. And yeah, we are excited to kind of take the partnership with G2 forward, and move to the next level as well. Ashima, coming back to you, so you had mentioned that. So how did you actually? So you talked about the fact that outbound is where you started, and then you build out an inbound engine, and then you were thinking about like a new channel for growth. So how did you actually operationalize this? So how did you actually pitch it to the management or to your sales team? How did you get that internal buy-in? What did it take to set this new channel up?
Okay. So, in the beginning, before we even pitched it, I mean, of course we did a POC, but before we even talked about it or its potential with our management, we tried out multiple things. Some of them were successful, some of them weren't. But in the process, one important thing that I realized or saw a lot of potential in was aware buyers versus unaware buyers. For example, if I put it easily, let's say there's this company A that has a very explicit need for, let's say, a product like Upflow, but they are unaware. They are not yet in the market to look for a solution or improve their situation at all. Versus there's this company B, a very implicit need, not that big, but they're still proactively in the market looking for a solution to improve their situation, or maybe they're looking for ways to scale their operations if they grow. And it was obvious we want to target those companies like the company B in this case, because the sales cycle would be shorter, easier, quicker. You don't have to make them aware of the problem, etc. And this is where I saw the real potential or the angle for the management. In the beginning, what we did is we assigned all our ICP accounts that had these intent signals to the sales team, and we expected them to nurture and close them and create relationships with them because, like I said, we believe in a very value-driven, personalized communication approach, both in marketing and sales. So we wanted the outreach to be personalized, hence all of those accounts to sales. We soon saw we soon started to see a huge problem with this. The volumes became more and more every month. It became unmanageable for the sales team, and hence the whole process wasn't scalable. We were
Ashima, I
clear
had
that
a question here. Sorry to interrupt. So you talked about the value-driven approach, right? Could you talk about like where did that come from, and maybe just a little bit about how did you come to that? Yeah.
So I think it's more in the DNA of the company, if I put it that way. It's more of a philosophy that comes from our founder and hence is in our operating principles, which is give first and expect nothing. It sounds like you're delaying the sales process or you're making it harder for the sales team to sell, but it actually works in shorter or long-term periods. When you follow this value-driven approach, you're always providing value to the prospect, not pitching Upflow every time or not expecting anything in return. You see magic happen. I can actually think of this one example from just, I think, 2 days ago, wherein we closed this one big deal, which was triggered due to an intent signal like this 2 years ago. we got in touch, we created a relationship, we helped them make a decision. At that time, their decision was doing something in-house for cash collection, not going for Upflow or any of our competitors. But later down the road, we kept in touch, helped them build that in-house solution, gave them value and a lot of things and consultation along the way. And just 2 days ago, they ended up at Upflow. They appreciated all the value they've been getting from our relationship, and at the end, it's a win-win for both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of marketers would love to kind of operate that way, but somehow I don't think that's common practice in terms of keeping such a long time frame to say, as you said, give first and expect nothing, right? It's not like somebody comes in, interacts with you, and then you immediately kind of expect that they will be like in a sales cycle, right? So yeah, I mean, great that you've been able to operationalize it, and I think if that culture is there already in the company, then I think it just makes life easier for a marketer, right?
That is true. I mean, setting those expectations in the beginning is very, very important.
Yeah. Sorry, I had interrupted you earlier. So coming back, you're talking about the process of setting this up and
Yeah.
evangelizing this internally.
Correct. So, like I said, the process that we were following didn't seem scalable. So we had to find, I mean, a different solution. And we were very clear from the beginning that we don't want to do a one size fits all kind of a strategy. So you might have seen with a lot of people, or it's a general practice that people try and bucket all the intent signals into one, run a retargeting campaign on it via ads, or do an automated email campaign on those. But from the very beginning, we were clear that is not something we wanna do. Of course, it's not personalized. It might have less results than we want it to. And to be very honest, we did try it on a few occasions here and there, but it like we hypothesized, it just didn't work. So what we did and what we have today is kind of this three-layer structure wherein we are utilizing these signals from across marketing to sales via three different functions. So the marketing team is responsible for generating these intent signals. They will drive traffic to our website and G2 for tools like yours to capture that intent and send it to us. Once that is done, we now have two different layers dealing with those or utilizing those intent signals. One is the sales team. So every salesperson has their own accounts, their own pool. So what we do is we gather all these intent signals on that account pool. We score them, enrich them, and pass that information on to the sales team. And they use this information not just to prioritize their accounts, which account to go after first and when is the right time to get in touch with them, but also to personalize their outreach according to the activities that they have done, according to the need that they have. So yeah, all of that combined started to work very well and is working really well till date. I think it's scalable. It is the right approach for us. And then what do we do about the remaining intent signals that do not go to sales or are not on the sales accounts? We bundle them all and give it to a marketing SDR. That's what we call them. It's kind of a sales function, but it sits in the marketing team. And I think that's the biggest secret sauce, if you like to put it that way. It's the real learning. So this person who's supposed to nurture these account level intent signals and convert them into leads that are ready to talk to sales needs to sit in the marketing team, because this is where we are tracking the whole buyer journey, understanding where they are, what stage they are in, what do they look like, how should we target them, all of that. So what we do is we categorize all our intent signals into tofu, mofu, bofu. I mean, a more standardly accepted terminology or G2's terminology would be decision, consideration, and sorry, I'm so sorry, awareness, decision, and consideration. If you like to bring it up, Praveen, I think there is this small table.
Yes. And
I would
let me
like to
just
show.
quickly
Yeah,
share that. Just 1 second. I think I'm
no problem.
not able to share my screen right now. It could be a setting issue. But why don't we just talk about it, Ashima, and we can share
Yeah.
that as a resource afterwards as well.
No problem, of course. So how we categorize these intent signals is three buckets. depending on the intent behind doing that action. So for example, in Upflow's context, let's say there's this collection manager looking for a template for dunning emails. So what's the intent behind it? It's mostly he's trying to save some time and effort on his end. Sorry, we have it here.
Yeah.
Can we go to the next slide? That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So we bucket our intent signals, like you see on the screen, in these three categories. And let's say there is this account manager, like I said, who's very top of the funnel. He's still in the awareness stage. He's just probably trying to save some time by looking for some templates online. So what do we do in this kind of an intent signal? We don't want to directly pitch Upflow and try and sell them our product. We want to give them value, provide them what they are looking for right now. So in this particular case, I would likely send them our free tool, which is calculating all your metrics for you, like DSO, aging balance, everything that a collections manager would be interested in. And he doesn't have to spend time calculating them on Excel anymore, which is very, very time consuming. So a value touch probably would help them, not help us, but would put Upflow on the top of his mind. Let's say there is another case wherein they are checking out, let's say, a pricing page, which is a consideration stage kind of an intent. In this case, we want to push them down the funnel. They already are aware of the problem. They are considering a solution, maybe not Upflow at the moment, but they are considering a solution to their problem. We want them pushed further down the decision stage, not necessarily, again, trying to sell Upflow. In this case, what I would do is maybe send them a benchmarking template. See how you rank against your peers. If they are not ranking as high, which probably would be the case if they are looking for such content, and they're not using a product like Upflow yet, they would have higher DSOs than their peers who are using a tool. So that will create more urgency. That will solidify their need and probably push them down the funnel. The decision stage is where you really try and pitch and sell to them, solidify the ROI of your product, the impact of your services. So let's say somebody clicked on my benchmarking template or the free discover tool in the previous stage. This is when I hook them up with an ROI template, get them in touch with the sales team, maybe push them to do a demo. So those kind of bottom of the funnel CTAs come in only when they are ready, to take the next step. So that's the simple strategy follow. We categorize them. We also further categorize them depending upon the industry and the type of technology they're using, but that's very case to case and very subjective. But high level, I think we follow a very value-driven approach, pushing them slowly down the funnel unless Upflow is one name consistent in their minds. It gives our sales team a competitive edge because we've built a relationship with them across the journey. And yeah, that's working pretty well for us at the moment.
Got it. Now, this is super interesting, Ashima. So I have, before I bring in Christine on how G2 can also play a part in these identifying these stages, I wanted to check with you. So for these marketing SDRs, how do you actually kind of look at performance? Because typically the performance review for an SDR, sales SDR role is how many meetings have you booked, right? But in your case, you're taking a completely different approach. You're saying, depending on the stage, you just have to add value, give them information that is useful. It is absolutely okay for them to not engage with us in terms of getting on a call. You don't even have to push for it, right? So then
Right.
how do you actually, how do you monitor performance? How do you know you're doing a good job, et cetera, for this team?
Right. Very interesting. So we try and play this good cop, bad cop kind of a thing with our sales and marketing. So marketing being the good cop, always providing value, while sales team being the bad cop, chasing you to buy the product. So in the initial stages, until they are ready to go to the decision stage, talk to the sales team, we measure impact by the number of leads you're pushing down the funnel. The more content they're producing, the more clicks they are making on the content, the higher is your success rate for the marketing SDR. So the goal for them is to keep the accounts as engaged as possible and the journey. So for example, let's say our conversion rates from leads to MQLs is, for a company is, let's say, only 2%. And if it goes from 2 to 3%, that's a huge impact on the pipeline. It's not directly a lead or an MQL or I don't know, an opportunity or MRR, but it's an ROI. It's qualitative and quantitative at the same time, but it's a high ROI that we measure.
Got it. So you are essentially saying the marketing SDRs have to keep Upflow top of the mind for all of these prospects.
Right.
And what you're expecting is that for all these accounts which are at the initial stage of their journey, they are coming back to the Upflow website, looking at your content, the downloadable assets that you're sharing, they are actually kind of clicking on it, consuming that content, and they are moving down the funnel, right? So that's the way you kind of measure. So you take out the pressure of, are you ready for a demo right away? Right?
Yeah, because if you try and do that, that will be the sole purpose of a sales member.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their DNA. They try and get them on a call, which we don't want to do. So we set realistic expectations for them. One person focused on just one part of the funnel, trying to increase the conversion rates of only that stage. So that is how we keep it efficient and moving.
Got it. Christine, I know that the G2 signals are also very effective. It's almost like kind of reading your prospect's mind in terms of being able to kind of place them in that journey, right? Could you talk about all the signals that G2 gets and how do you actually figure out at what stage is a buyer based on the activity on G2?
Yeah. And when I'm hearing Ashima like walk through her thought process in how she structures the different intent signals to activity, I think it's very similar and it's very thoughtful. So I really appreciated it. But it's very similar. We've got three buckets of state of buying intent stages, right? There's the awareness, consideration, decision. And I'll kind of go through like each of them one by one, if you don't mind. For awareness, somebody going to check out a category on G2, where different products and such that falls underneath that category will show listed. That is to us a very top funnel awareness activity, right? And that's where we would categorize it. As they're clicking into the different product profiles, then you're getting deeper into the considerations, right? And then when you're doing pricing research, that's when it's getting more and more serious. And the one that I think is two very interesting signals. One is the comparison signal. That is when you are selecting specific products and comparing them side by side in a layout on G2. That this is getting really close to their shortlist, right? And in fact, we've seen some really great transaction or conversions, which probably I'll pass to you after, and you can share about. The other interesting signal that I think may be understood or underutilized is this alternatives view. It's when people are researching a specific product and they're looking for alternatives to that product. That's a great prospecting signal because especially if the alternative is one of your direct competitors, then you can infer that they may be looking to replace what they currently have. It can also be an incredibly powerful churn signal for you. If it is your customer and they're searching for alternatives to you and your renewal is coming up, that account manager better get on that call. Like that is an at-risk account, right? So our intent signals are very much mapped similar to Ashima, how you have structured it. And I think I've seen across the board, like the biggest pitfall that marketers have when they're working with G2 is, it's a constant balance over speed over effectiveness, right? And so the speed part is take all the data and put it into one campaign that you execute. So I wanted to ask you this question around, as you're operationalizing G2 intent data, and you probably have other data that you're bringing, like your website, etc. How do you balance that challenge of efficiency versus effectiveness, and leveraging the tech stack to do that efficiently for you?
Yes. Okay. So, if you don't mind, I just wanted to share a few anecdotes on your point previously. So you were talking about use cases for customer success. So
Yeah.
basically, churn management, one use case for these intent signals. And you were talking about those or looking for alternatives, looking for competitors, all of that on G2. So it's very important to understand the intent behind a particular signal, right?
Hmm.
So we have also seen, so we've been talking a lot about acquiring customer via these intent signals. But what we've also seen that is that they help them retain, plus also sometimes influence an open pipeline. Let's say there is this salesperson who's working on this one opportunity he thinks is non-competitive. Upflow is the only one. There is nobody else in the mix, and he's very confident. And suddenly there is this intent signal that comes in that says they are looking for alternatives to Upflow. That means this is probably now a competitive deal. They're also evaluating other solutions in the market. And that is when the salesperson can quickly get on top of it, personalize his approach. Now, just not pitch Upflow, but also pitch Upflow against the competitors. So these signals are very powerful in very different ways. Obviously, I'm missing a lot more use cases as well that I might remember when you guys are sharing your experiences with other customers. Coming back to how we operationalized and how the tech stack is set up. So initially we were integrating G2 with our CRM, website with our CRM, and it was everywhere. We were trying to consolidate the data and make it efficient and more centralized for the team to manage. That's where I think Factors came in very, very handy. So today, Factors is the central tool for us for all the intent data. So we centralize all our intent data in Factors, enrich it there, score it there. So we have this very powerful feature in there, which is account scoring. I'm not sure if Praveen, you want to detail more about it, but how we use it is obviously we score all the intent data that is coming from various channels. We group them and send it over to sales or send it over to our CRM for them to see and prioritize their accounts. So yeah, that's how Factors has become a very central and an important tool for us to manage these intent signals. And it's easier that way as well, right? You can see all your intent data at one place them in different segments, do a little bit of experimentation on them, scoring on them at one place, and then pass it on to your CRM. And from your CRM, the marketing SDR or the sales team can pick it up and then, of course, take it further in their outreach tools and LinkedIn ads and retargeting via automated campaigns or whatever.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly kind of walk you through how that happens inside Factors. So just to kind of share my screen here. I presume you can see the screen with Palo Alto Networks and a timeline of Palo Alto Networks right now. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So this is how the Factors account timeline looks like. And what it essentially does is it brings together data from your CRM, from your website, from all your LinkedIn campaigns that you're running, even the G2 intent signals that Christine talked about. So you can see all of that in a single sort of timeline over here, right? So I'm right now inside my own instance of Factors. If I scroll to the left, it'll be like CRM data from known contacts, including all the emails and the meetings that we have had. Not going there because there are actually email IDs, but you'd get to see all of your sort of known user activity as well over here. But you can see that, for example, this company has been checking out our website, looking at our blogs for a while, since like November 2023. The company got created in our CRM in January. Once we figured out that there was some activity, we can see that, as Christine mentioned, they've been looking at alternatives. They've been looking at our product category. We have started running ads to them based on these intent signals and activating this data. And if you want to kind of go deeper, you can just click on it and see that which were the specific sort of pages that they were going to in G2, right? So all of this detail kind of very richly laid out. And what this allows you to do is, I have some of my customers who say that this qualitative view really helps them when they are looking at, let's say, a closed won deal, right? In fact, one of my customers, which is a cybersecurity startup based out of Israel, they booked an opportunity with Apple, and obviously the entire company was really excited about it. And they were just wondering, okay, what kind of triggered this, right? And when they came into Factors and looked at that timeline, they could see that for 6 months, executives at Apple have been seeing your ads. They've been researching about you on G2. They've been coming to your website. And finally, they kind of decided to respond to that sales outreach and say, fine, let's talk, right? We are interested. As Ashima mentioned, you can score all of these signals and factors, and you can get like an account signal view of how is your level of engagement with this company, how many users are you engaging with, what are the top sort of intent signals. So, for example, G2 alternatives is probably like the biggest signal for this particular account. And once you have this data, you can actually activate that in terms of syncing it to LinkedIn Campaign Manager for setting up audiences. So we have this LinkedIn audience sync where you can sync any audience from Factors into LinkedIn. Or alternatively, you can set up workflows where you can sync data from Factors back into your CRM, right? So if you want to sync it into HubSpot or Salesforce or Zoho, and we are also adding more automations into outreach platforms like Smart Lead, Sales Robo, etc. as well, right? So essentially, what we help you do is bring together all of this data and then define your own sort of flexible scoring rules. Define those stages as Ashima and Christine mentioned in terms of comparison stage was comparing products versus alternatives, and then finally activate this data into the tools that you're already using. Right. So yeah, that's a very brief sort of overview. Let me just stop sharing now. So Ashima, so you mentioned that so from a centralization perspective, all of the data gets centralized into Factors, and you're defining your own sort of scoring logic. Any sort of inputs that you can give on, at times these signal volumes can be too much, right? And that is one concern that a lot of marketers have. So how do you actually prioritize? How do you decide that, hey, the top X%, or this is the sort of bandwidth that we'd have from a sales perspective to kind of act on it? Or would you rely on only assigned accounts? I know you mentioned earlier that assigned accounts is what goes to sales. Is that how it is always, or is there like exceptions? How do you manage that volume?
Yes. So, like I said, in the very beginning, we were passing all ICP accounts with intent signals. So, anybody that clears a certain threshold of scoring on the firmographic criteria was passed on to sales. And initially, when the channel was new, that's fine. There was lower volumes. It was manageable by the entire sales team, distributed fairly. But soon became a challenge. We saw it's not scalable. The intents, I mean, as and when your marketing initiatives increase, your SEO becomes better, the traffic is only going to go up. I mean, hopefully, that's all we are hoping for. But yeah, we realize that's not going to work. So now what we have is like a dual strategy. We only take a set pool of sales account, provide them this engagement score and the activity detail on only those accounts so that they are very focused on their pool. They know how to prioritize their own accounts, personalize them, close them probably faster than they could have without these intent signals. So the goal over there is more optimization of the pool that they have. On the other end, for us, the marketing team and the marketing SDR, it's finding the right company, the right persona, and the right timing. So we use these signals coupled with another scoring mechanism we have in in HubSpot, which is on the firmographic criterias and the buyer personas. Once we identify the right person in the company who was searching for this, I mean, who actually had this signal created, down to a lead that is ready to talk to sales is when we pass on new leads to them. Until then, they only work on what they have, the set pool.
Got it. Got it. Understood. Understood. Just moving a step forward, Ashima. So one of the questions, and I'm sure both Christine and I would have heard this from a lot of marketers, is ultimately once you set up this program, how do you actually measure success? So if you can share, and before you go, Christine, any thoughts on how other customers are actually looking at success from G2? Is that something that you come across as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more customers you talk to, the more nuances you're going to hear in how they measure. And actually, a lot of shrugs, right? When you ask people if they how satisfied they are with their RI measurement, most people will say we're not completely satisfied for good reason. I think it stems from first, how do you how where does the marketing uh, sit, like prioritization of marketing in the organization? Do you see marketing as a cost center, or are you looking at marketing as an investment? I think depending on where that lens is, just the political atmosphere in that company, that will drive the underpinning KPIs and measurements. Whether you are looking to defend a marketing investment, or are you looking to drive the next best action after you have made the investment. So all of that you can anchor it around revenue influence. You can anchor it around pipeline driven. You can anchor it around NQLs even, just depending on the political culture in that company and how they see marketing.
Got it. Ashima, could you talk about how in Upflow this is managed, right? Like both the the equation between marketing and sales in general, and how do you actually look at whether this program is successful? Because you're investing not just the costs involved in the tech stack and the tools, but actual bandwidth from people to actually use this. It's a behavioral change for everyone, right? So how are you actually measuring ROI from this?
That's honestly the most difficult question for every marketer. Like Christine said, it depends upon the company politics if they see marketing as a cost center or as an investment. And I think we at Upflow live somewhere in between. Maybe we
Hmm.
found a nice balance to evaluate initiatives like this that are not just centered around acquiring customers, but also centered around brand awareness, creating that name and that space for yourself. So how we do it is we follow this dual measurement wherein we see qualitative data and quantitative data. So if I talk about qualitative, how do we measure qualitative success of a channel like G2 or factors? So these intent signals have many a times helped us drive our strategy or create a strategy for the future. It gives us that market pull. Is it the right time for us to go up market? Are the people in market aligned with the ICP we thought is the right for our product? So that's in itself a huge ROI because that strategy is where your entire resources are focused. So your entire sales team, your marketing team, your success team is following a certain strategy. And if it's not effective, your entire resource allocation goes to waste. So one of the bigger ROIs that we see in initiatives like this is qualitative, the market pull, understanding the direction of our buyers. And if I talk about another qualitative measure that we do with these channels is the influence of existing pipeline.
Hmm.
Let's say a salesperson with 500 accounts and no engagement score on intent signals is able to close 10% of those accounts in 6 months.
Hmm.
With these intent signals, they will close either 20, 30, 40% or close those 10% 40, 50 times faster. So if
Hmm.
there is a 30-day sales cycle, it will probably become 20 because you're targeting the right company at the right time and you know the context, what they're looking for, what do they need. So it's a qualitative measure. It's not always easy to justify, but it's there. So you have to find a way to convey that to the team. Now, more obvious stuff, quantitative measures. So we do attribute a certain pipeline and MRR numbers to these channels as well. It's not just qualitative. How do we do that? Is that we follow a very simple attribution model. We follow a 30-day first touch attribution model. What this means is in a 30-day period, what was the first touch, the first trigger that led to the opportunity? If, for example, somebody visited G2 and our sales team gets a signal, they reach out to 3 different personas in that team saying that, are you likely the person on our G2 or on our website? And if that converts into an opportunity, of course, it gets attributed to G2 because they were the first trigger that helped us get in touch with them. Similarly, with factors, we attribute it to the first touch in a 30-day window, which is close to our sales cycle.
Got it. And today, for example, in terms of like numbers, right, out of your pipeline, I know you mentioned inbound was like your primary source. How much has this channel kind of helped you grow beyond that?
So like I said, initially it was 0% inbound, 100% outbound. We scaled to 30% inbound, 70% outbound without these intent signals and without some other channels. And today we sit like at half, like equally contributing to the numbers coming from inbound and outbound.
Got
So
it.
the 30, if you talk about last year, that is the number that I have on the top of my mind. It was 35% of our entire inbound pipeline, which is very significant, came from just these two intent signals. So the first touch was these two intent signals. And then there
Got
is a lot more of value which comes from the influence to the open pipe.
Got it. So if I understood that right, so around 65% of your inbound pipeline came from hand raisers who would come and like book a demo or
Right.
book a meeting with the sales team. But around 35% of your inbound pipeline does not come from hand raisers, but you're able to kind of figure out through website and G2 intent signals that they are in market. You're nurturing
Right.
them through your marketing SDRs who are primarily focused on giving them value, educating them, and then at some stage they convert into like a meeting, and that's currently around 35% of your
Correct.
inbound pipeline.
Yes, Praveen, it sounds like when we put it this way, that this person is just pushing them down the funnel, and it might take like a huge amount of time to get back in the sales cycle. It's not usually the case. Majority of the times, the first or the second value touch has given us the lead information to pass it over to sales. So it's quite fast. I just shared an anecdote, which was a longer term period that we were very excited about, but most likely it is much faster. So the marketing SDR is able to see his impact every month with the campaigns he runs.
Got it. Understood. It's just that you're saying the first few touches, you are not pushing for a meeting, you're giving value, but it just so happens that,
Yes.
within the third or fourth sort of interaction, you are able to kind of get them to like at least an introductory call. Got it.
Yes, that's human nature. Yeah.
Yeah. No, my experience as well has been very similar in terms of ROI measurement. I'd say that, rather than trying to kind of only look at hard quantitative numbers, one of the best ways to measure channels like this is to say, let's look at a pool of accounts where you got like strong intent signals, which you decided to act on. And let's compare that to another pool of accounts where you were, where you had no really insight, but you were still kind of going after them. And then let's look at all the performance numbers in terms of meetings, opportunities, pipeline, sales cycle length, win rate, etc. And in most cases, what I've seen is that there is a clear difference, right? So if you are acting on intent signals from G2, or if it's a prospect that's actively researching on your website, as you said, they tend to close faster, and generally the ACVs are also either comparable or higher, right? So yeah, that's typically what I'd recommend to our customers as well, as an approach to measurement that you can take. Um, I know we're coming up on to the last 10 minutes. So everyone in the audience, if you have any questions, do drop them in the Q&A box. We will take them in a few minutes. Ashima, the last thing that I wanted to check was, what are the mistakes that you made? And how can you share that openly so that others can benefit from this as and when they are looking to kind of set up a channel like this? And I know we made a quick slide, so I'll just share it over here, and then you can just talk through that, Ashima.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, pitfalls to avoid. I think that's the most important part when you try and build out a new channel or a new initiative. Back then, I also did a lot of research, talked to a lot of different marketing teams, peers in the French ecosystem or the US ecosystem to see what they did, what they could have avoided that I can do better, etc. But still, you learn better from your own mistakes. That's what we did as well. So I think the biggest thing is setting the right expectations from the very beginning. You cannot come in with a new initiative or channel and say that, hey, 2 months later, you will have 100 MQLs, 100 leads, and 10 MQLs and 5 opportunities created from them, and probably 2 of them will become merchants. That's not how it works. That's maybe it works for some people, but that's not the right expectation to set in the very beginning. So we usually try and do a 6-month POC kind of a thing with these channels, where we give a channel or a tool or a software enough time to show the real impact, or for us to be able to understand the tool and implement it in a way that we are able to leverage the best, or getting the most potential out of the tool. That's I think would be the biggest pitfall to avoid, or the biggest mistake I made in the beginning, where to because I wanted to measure everything on a quantitative scale back then. But I think, like I said, we evolved and got more mature in terms of measuring the ROI of such channels. The second thing that I can think of, like I said, yeah, automating these intent-based campaigns. So usually people want to move very quickly on a channel that they have just bought. They want to move fast, do something real quick, and see an impact and show the team.
Mm.
And the biggest mistake that we are likely to do is bucketing them all together and sending them one kind of an email. Again, like I said, one size fits all kind of a strategy, or just putting them in an audience on LinkedIn ads and just keep on running different type of ads on them, which might not even be what they're looking for, or they all might not even be on the same page. I mean, on the same stage of their buying journey. So yeah, that's second thing that we should try and avoid. Um, Marketing and sales alignment, third. I think it is just not relevant to this channel in general. A lot of marketers would agree. Aligning with sales and making them your champions is very, very hard. I can share my experience in the beginning when I came in and said, hey guys, I'm going to implement factors. It will give you intent signals on who's visiting the website, what are they reading, how much time they're spending on the page. They were like, okay. I mean, they were getting notifications every day. They never really followed up on those. They didn't know if it was, interesting enough for them to spend time on it. They were always very outbound focused. It's in their DNA.
Mm.
So what we did is we made the channel exclusive to just one salesperson in a geo. So we took these two salespeople, one in UK, one in US. We gave them access to these signals. We gave them very, very few, very, very high priority ones, like good engagement scores, core ICP, like exactly on spot. The buyer persona is right, the company is right, the timing is right. And the first person to convert this intent signal into a closed customer just did it in a month, because
Mm.
he had exclusive rights to it and was getting a very prioritized list. Once he did it, every person in the sales team kept pinging me to add them to the channel. And until I did so, they were like, hey, why does this person only have access? I also want money in my pocket. He's making money from the channel, etc., etc. So we try and create one champion within the team that will advocate for our initiatives, and I think it has worked really well. Now the entire team is always on top of their intent signals, following them up properly, and it was also easier, to be honest. If you're working with just one or two person, it is faster feedback loops. You are able to customize your strategy. You're able to learn from their experiences. You can shadow them, sit with them, see how they are reaching out to one type of intent signal versus the other. So helped me in the beginning to create that right approach that I could scale across the team later.
Got it. Got it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the last, of course, is expecting immediate results. I mean, we did see immediate results. We did see one customer coming in just 1 month. It was a decent sized deal, average ACV, quick sales cycle, but that's not repeatable every time. It becomes repeatable and profitable after a certain amount of time, when you have ramped up, made a tailor-made strategy to your product, to your business model. And yeah, after that, it's just learning, iterating, testing, and I think optimizing.
Yeah. I mean, The 2 points that stood out for me, like one is the internal evangelism and that the what you did in terms of getting one salesperson, making it exclusive, and then creating that artificial sort of pull. I think that is great because in a lot of our customers, that is one challenge that they have in terms of how do you actually get the sales team to act on this. And the approach that you mentioned, which is starting small, doing a lot of the heavy lifting on marketing side to say this is a handpicked list of accounts and just giving that to sales. I think that's definitely something everyone should be doing. The other one on automating intent-based campaigns, I mean that unfortunately I feel that's the trend of the times is actually automating
I know.
everything, right? So what I see is increasingly that there are a lot more people who are just picking up these signals, putting it into like an automation software like Clay or something like that, and then emails are being just blasted out with inbox rotation and all of the technology that is coming with it, right? So I'm personally not bullish on that approach, but I guess it's a question of if you really increase the top of a funnel a lot, how much can you kind of get out, right? So uh, yeah, I mean, Christine, if you have anything to add here on what you've seen across customers in terms of how much automation is really good versus to be avoided.
Yeah, I think the scale is challenge I mentioned earlier is critical here. Like at the end of the day, if you're using intent signals, there's intent behind it, right? And if you don't recognize or appreciate that intent, then you kind of lose the value of your data and you just become annoying. Uh, so I really like how Ashima and your team has been super thoughtful in making sure that you're meeting the buyer wherever they are in their journey. Whether it be a piece of research that you can just be helpful and give value to, or if they're actually ready for a sales call. At the end of the day, you want to be a brand and you want to be a product that is helping your prospect or customers, right? So I think that's great. I really like it. One other mistake I see is uh, and then Praveen, you probably face this a lot in the analytics world. People constantly looking backwards and not thinking about how to move forward, right? So we talked earlier about the challenges with measurements and how nobody's actually truly like 100% happy with their attribution and measurement systems. But I find that sometimes we can get into the rabbit hole of trying to justify the ROI of marketing so much that it becomes a crediting battle with sales, right? And we're not actually driving a next best action to move the business forward, whether that be driving more pipeline or driving more revenue. We're fighting over like who gets credit for the sourcing of that. And the same thing happens in the marketing channel side. So I think that is another mistake I often see, especially when you're working with intent data. It's not like a direct media impression. So people get really caught up in trying to find the perfect way to measure an attribute that they're missing the bigger picture. And that sales and marketing each have a role, and how do you best do each role to move the business and revenue forward.
Oh yeah,
Great.
I complete. Sorry, Ashima, you were saying.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I completely agree. The like some of the that general philosophical understanding of marketing being more of an investment center, which will have drive nonlinear growth in future. I think if that can be sorted out, a lot of the issues around credit taking and looking at past data and trying to do that, you can save all of that energy and focus on Ashima what you're doing, which is how do you actually add more value to the prospect and ensure that you're not pushing them for a call immediately, but you're still achieving that outcome in a better way, right? So I completely agree.
Yeah, me too. I mean, keeping marketing and sales team aligned and not isolated units it's a complex problem, and I think everybody at certain point in their business faces this issue, and some people also face it for forever. I mean, it never really vanishes completely, but how we get around these things is we do not call opportunities, pure inbound or pure outbound. Um, it's more of a marketing influenced pipeline, marketing influenced opportunities and MRR. So we, at the end of the day, the sales is going to be made by sales. Even if we bring the lead in or the intent data, we can't go and close the deal for you. So it's always credit to sales. So we try and position it like a marketing influence deal that the sales team close so that there is no battle between the credit, you know. I mean, and we
Yeah.
don't try and um reflect initiatives in a way that this is pure inbound, only credit goes to marketing. This is outbound, credit goes to sales. That's not. It's all, everything is all bound. Everything requires all of the different teams working together to bring that customer in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's just something that has to come top down at a company level and just kind of enforce that. Because otherwise, I end up seeing customers who spend like millions of dollars only on like getting that email ID, right? Like you just have to get the email ID and then pass it to someone to call them up for a meeting. I know we are over time here, but we have a few questions. I'll just quickly go through them. And I'll just call out most of these, I believe, are for you, Ashima, but I think a couple of them are for me as well. So I think the first question from Aman was around considering that tracking norms are becoming tighter by the year. How do we kind of de-anonymize traffic, right? So yeah, that's a interesting question. So definitely with the more tightening privacy regulations, tracking down to like an individual user always is going to be like a challenge. So what systems like G2 and what we do, we try to do it at an account level, right? So account level identification for the most part, or for all practical purposes, is covered under existing sort of privacy regulations because you are not kind of saying it's a particular sort of individual. So we do not give an individual level data because that is where it really gets into the gray area of how did you get consent from that user to disclose that piece of information, right? And I expect that those regulations will only get tighter in terms of individual privacy. I don't think there is a going back from where we are right now. So I think one way to kind of circumvent this is by starting to collect signals at an account level, having a very tight ICP definition, and using proxies like this account, somebody from this account from New York City showed a lot of interest in our product. So then how could you how you triage that to figure out who could that person be and kind of reach out, right? So that is sort of my take on that. Ashima, the second question, I'll pass it on to you. What is the best time frame within which the SDR team should reach out to an intent lead? So there is that question of speed to lead, getting to them soon. Is that something that you kind of look at as well, or in your approach is that kind of less important?
No, I think as much as I would want it not to be, it still is. Speed still matters, and it's important to get the lead when it's actively researching. So hit the
Hmm.
iron when it's hot. It's gonna have the maximum impact than maybe, let's say, reaching out 2 days later when they've closed the window or a competitor reached out to them first. Because if they're in market doing the research, all the competitors out there have access to this. Not all, if not all, most of them have access to this information. So speed does matter, but also a personalized approach matters. So we try and say that it's as soon as possible. And that's why sometimes for the broader SAM and not the core ICP accounts, we try and do some automated or semi-automated campaigns to do that first touch quickly. But for our important accounts, the set of pool that we decide as a company to close within the year or that we call our ICP, for them, we keep a 24-hour SLA. So
Hmm.
we give our sales team 24 hours to reach out to them, customize, find the relevant information, and probably have the maximum impact and trading off a little bit on the time.
Got it. I think a related question here is, given that you're getting the signal at an account level from both G2 and Factors, how do you actually separate out the personas who are doing research versus the ones who probably control the budget, right? So how is your sales team engaging with multiple people in that company? Do you have like a content asset strategy which is separate for each sort of persona? Yeah, could you talk to that?
Yes, so like you said, exactly, we have a different strategy for each of those personas. So like I said, one of the biggest challenge is converting this account level intent to a lead,
Hmm.
identifying which person was researching or which is the right person in the company to talk to. And that is where the sales team was struggling in the beginning, wasting a lot of their time and effort. So what we've done is we've done this semi-automated campaigns wherein each persona, depending upon the stage they are in, depending on the signal that we generated, is sent a different kind of value touch. We are sometimes smart or sly about it. Let's say we don't know who in the company came to our pricing page or checked out a feature page. We first try and get in touch with the decision maker saying, hey, do you know your team is searching for a tool like this? Probably you have this problem. And then we try and center the whole problem on a more holistic level. For example, somebody looking for a Dunning template, it's his need, but the CFO really cares about the cash flow. So we
Hmm.
try and change the content according to the persona, but giving them a hint that, hey, your team is researching. There is maybe a problem that you're not aware about. And then we use the reverse strategy down in the hierarchy, wherein we contact an AR manager and say, hey, probably your boss is looking at this. Are you aware he thinks there's this problem? Do you want to get on top of it? So you have to try different content approaches and see what works best. We've seen cases where the person is on the website, we get a signal, within 5 minutes, the sales team person reaches out to the decision maker and says, oh yeah, that's me. I still have the window open. Do you want to get on a call now? So it's
Hmm.
it's quite nice when you see that happening in reality.
Got it. So you're saying generally have a strategy for decision makers versus and users, and try to kind of bring the entire thing together. So when you're reaching out to the decision maker, talk about the fact that users or others in the company are downloading more of these operational assets and advice that you have. So maybe there's an area that you want to look into, and then the reverse when you're reaching out to the users as well. Yeah,
We
yeah, that
also
makes sense.
try and prompt conversations within those teams. It's not usually explicit or easy to do, but we try and reach out to different levels or different peers in the same company, talking about Upflow in different ways or talking about this intent signal in different ways so that it creates a conversation between them. Maybe in lunch breaks, hey, did you also receive this message? Were you the person doing it? I received this
Mhm.
email. Seen that in action as well. So yeah, you gotta try multiple things, but it really works if you find the right content for the right person.
Got it. Another question, Ashima, that is there here for you is yeah, the question is what is a cost per lead for Upflow in the context of G2, right? So I guess you're trying to kind of get into some sort of economics and ROI over here. You briefly talked about 35% of inbound pipeline, but I guess what this person wants, what Ajit wants to know here is how does this translate into from a cost per lead perspective, maybe even comparing it to some other channel.
So I don't think I'm at the liberty of sharing the exact CAC at the
Okay.
moment. How you can understand this is that so the cost behind this is not just what we pay to G2 or factors. It is also a lot of our bandwidth, the marketing SDR's payroll, some of sales time, all of that. We don't have the exact measurement, but it's the best you can get according to the standard calculations. And the ROI for each of those channels, be it factors or be it G2, over the years on an average has been 2 to 3x. So
Hmm.
whatever, let's say, we are paying combined to both the tools plus our own payroll, we are generating 2 or 3 times that every year. So that's a pretty good ROI when you think about it from a marketing initiatives. Marketing initiatives usually don't always have a high ROI.
Yeah, yeah, I know in many cases, for example, for paid marketing, I've seen a lot of companies where it's like, 1 to 1 in terms of investment, right?
Exactly.
Especially some of these digital marketing channels in certain categories, it can be really expensive. So I think 3 times, yeah, that sounds like a very fair sort of deal. I guess the last question here was around how do we de-anonymize website traffics? How does this work? So from a factors perspective, and I believe G2 follows a similar approach. So we work with multiple providers, and the key signals that are used to identify companies on the website is basically your IP address, and other sort of device level information, like what kind of device is using this IP address, and that is then used to kind of infer the company that is the company at which this person kind of works, right? And it is a probabilistic signal. It is not like a deterministic exact kind of signal, but in aggregate, it works reasonably well, and you are able to kind of figure out that these are the accounts. Once you filter for your ICP as well, you're able to kind of figure out that these are the accounts that are within your ICP and within your target account list. This is how you should prioritize them, right? So that is how generally the de-anonymization approach kind of works. I know we spent a lot more time today, an extra 11 minutes. So thanks a lot, everyone who's been patiently kind of listening to us. Thanks, Christine and Ashima as well. Any closing thoughts, Christine?
Hey, thanks for hanging on with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn or my email cli@g2.com. Looking forward to continuing this conversation.
Yeah. Ashima, thanks a lot for sharing all of that sort of information that you shared. This is extremely useful, especially for other marketers who are at the stage that you're at, right? You have outbound working, you have inbound working. How do you now drive growth, right? So thanks a lot for sharing your journey. I really appreciate it.
Really enjoyed the discussion, Praveen and Christine. Thank you for having me, and have a nice day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks a lot for taking the time, and look forward to the next session that we'd be hosting. All
Bye,
right.
folks.
Bye.